Over the past few years, Netflix has gone from the king of streaming to a trash cable network. The CW in the specific case of Winx Saga, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Predicting Fate the Winx Saga Season 2 will be bad is kind of like predicting 5 o'clock at 4:30. Now, looking at the two distinct levels of fail going on with this show, that's interesting. Fate fails as an adaptation of the Winx Club and in the CW format they're trying to copy. Let's start by looking at it as an adaptation first. The first and most important major way they get it wrong is with the tone. If you've ever seen the cartoon, Winx Club is bright, colorful, energetic, full of fun. It has a playful sense of humor about it. It's tropey and goofy and not really the kind of thing you should take seriously. Fate the Winx Saga, on the other hand, is much like a lot of other adaptations of comics or cartoons, forcibly hammered into this young adult drama format, like Archie or Sabrina. It's superficially dark. I'm talking tonally in terms of story elements, dreary looking. The color palette tends to be kind of washed out. They use darkness to obscure some of the, let's face it, less good effects. And there's a huge emphasis on melodrama. The next area where this adaptation really gets it wrong are with the characters. Although I do have to give Fate Season 2 some credit, it looks like they've actually put Flora into the show. If you're unaware, in the previous season of Fate, series mainstay Flora, who's been one of the main characters since the beginning, was swapped out for a new character with sort of similar abilities named Terra. I have no idea why they did this. But I also don't have any illusions that the inclusion of a actual character named Flora will make the show any better, because they have not done a good job with adapting any of the other characters. Typically, they just take one or two traits and a superficially similar looking actor and call it a day. Finally, there's setting. Fate the Winx Saga is very localized to Althea, the magical school Hogwarts analog in the Winx Club universe. But one of the things that Winx Club did was they went to all kinds of different places. Other planets, other dimensions. They're almost always going somewhere or doing something new season to season. Alright, now let's talk about the CW format. Before I get into why exactly Winx Club isn't really an ideal candidate for this kind of treatment, let's look at where this format actually comes from. The CW format is based on Monster of the Week style shows like X-Files or Buffy, which were a huge hit in the decades they came out. The style seems to have been cemented with the show Supernatural. But that show had a built-in advantage. Like X-Files, it was able to hide its low budget because it emphasized the horror elements of its storyline. Horror movies are some of the cheapest films to produce because you don't have to have the creature on screen. You don't have to spend a lot of money on special effects. It's all built on the tension of not seeing something. However, that is not at all how a young adult fantasy like Winx Club, or theoretically Fate the Winx Saga, or any number of other things, actually needs to work. Fundamentally, properties like Winx Club have more in common with Star Wars than they do the X-Files. They thrive on novelty. Having the characters always going something new, seeing something new, getting new abilities, new transformations, it all makes the show exciting. Now, Fate is obviously unable to do this for budgetary reasons, so they have to go the Arrow route. Supernatural may have cemented the CW style, but Arrow took it to new heights and made it what it is today, both for better and often for worse. The CW put out quite a few high-concept shows with fantasy, sci-fi, or other elements that require a substantial VFX budget. Because they were only able to do this once per episode typically, they could have one action set piece, one cool special effect, they had to spend the rest of their extra long runtime having the characters sitting around talking about their feelings, usually in a hallway. Another reason why Winx does not work particularly well with this format is the fact that the characters have fairly stable relationships. Do the characters occasionally get in fights with each other? Yes, but typically there's a fundamental harmony between the main characters. They all basically like each other, they don't fight that much, any disagreements are usually worked out with a brief conversation. It doesn't have enough of the juicy, high-stakes drama that you need for a soap opera, which is what this really is at the end of the day. One of the few times that I can recall that there was an incident that even qualifies for that kind of treatment was when Darcy of the Tricks mind-controlled Riven. Really, Fate should have taken that plotline and stretched it out for a full season. Oh, but they can't do that because they didn't include the Tricks in their adaptation of Winx Club. Brilliant move, by the way. Now, with those reasons out of the way, let's acknowledge the 400-pound troll in the room, the CW being sold for literally nothing, and the revelation that its main audience is 58 years old, on average. That might be technically true, but there's more nuance to it than that. They have produced a lot of shows aimed at teenagers, so most likely the so-called 58-year-old CW viewer is, in fact, just letting younger family members watch the TV. That could be true, and the shows could still not be doing very well because a lot of CW shows go to streaming, and if they were doing well, then somebody would have said something about how good their numbers are. It all makes me question who this show is even for. It definitely isn't for fans of the Winx Club. They're just gonna get mad about the bad adaptation. I also don't think it's for soap opera fans. There isn't enough meat, there isn't enough juice. They need to work really hard to make basically non-events into big catastrophes. I have zero expectation for Fate the Winx Saga Season 2, and I have no plans to watch it. Although, if you're the kind of person who likes to stare at car crashes, by all means. I imagine there'll be quite a few unintentionally hilarious moments brought on by bad dialogue and utterly ridiculous events. Although, just hear me out here. I think you can watch most of the seasons of the original Winx Club cartoon and the movies right here on YouTube, so that might be a better use of your time. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in supporting my work outside of YouTube, check out Sorcerous, a dark fantasy mystery RPG available right now on Steam. And if you're interested in more reviews of movies, comic books, TV shows, or anime, check out Stupid Private right here on YouTube.
Hey kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter 4 and the number potato! I'm a stupid private.